Well, Seconds Out, delighted to be joined by Sky Sports' Adam Smith, good friend, of course, as well. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, Danny. I'm very good. Still sort of coming down to earth after the wonderful night at the O2, which was groundbreaking and a pivotal moment, I think, for female boxing or for women's sport in general. It was a wonderful night. I think it was a night we all needed after a couple of difficult weeks in the sport. Just very proud of every single fighter on the bill. Proud of the audience we got, the numbers, the atmosphere, everything. So I've been very busy doing that, but thought I'd wander up today and see a couple of my old friends in Tyson and Dereck. And it's great to be back at Tottenham Hotspur as well. We have fantastic memories of working with the amazing staff here. It's a wonderful stadium, and I'm sure it'll be filled again on December the 3rd because it's the Tyson Fury show and it rolls on.
For female boxing and for Sky's relationship with it, how do you possibly top what was an historic, momentous occasion?
It's a great question, Danny. It's something, as you know, we've worked behind the scenes for a long time to get to that point with the likes of Katie Taylor and Savannah Marshall being our scholars, and seeing the development of the sport with Clarissa Shields, obviously, with Tasha Jonas, Chantel Cameron, Terry Harper, so many others. And it's been brilliant, and it's been a real crusade of ours on Sky Sports Boxing, along with Matchroom and Eddie a few years ago when Casey turned professional, and so many others that have got behind it. But our new partners, the Boxer, have really innovated, and they've supported us and they made this happen. And I'm delighted, for Ben, and I'm delighted for the women, and I think it's fantastic that they all performed. How do we top it? Well, we've got the momentum now, and it was a watershed moment, I think, that we could open it up, not to have it on box office, put it on Sky Sports, a very expensive night, but put it on Sky Sports and Sky Showcase. Got incredible numbers, the second most watched Sky Sports boxing event since 2014, and the biggest of all time for the women, the biggest women's sporting event we've ever had on Sky. Just incredible numbers and incredible reach. And I think for me, the best thing was the 35% women in the audience and the kids that were there that were inspired. And we can do it again. We can. We've got lots of ideas. We start with Tasha Jonas in a few weeks' time, topping a bill in Liverpool. Obviously, there's plenty of female boxing before that with Katie's return and Chantel and McCaskill going at it as well. I think it's a terrific time for women's sport generally, but with our reach and our platform and our relationship with Boxer, I think we're in it together to build stars and to really showcase the likes of Lauren and Caris and Caroline. And I expect them to be headlining places like this, maybe whether it's Tottenham or the Principality for Lauren, or a Manchester Stadium for Caris, or a London Stadium for Caroline Dubois. I think in 3 years the women will be headlining stadiums. So there's a long way to go. We're moving towards parity. We're maybe moving towards 3-minute rounds. Who knows? But what we have got is we've got the great female fighters out in front of the casual audience, a new audience, a fresh audience with the different ring walks, the different feel of last Saturday night. It's something for us to enjoy and celebrate now, but now the time in the coming weeks is to build on that and to make sure we deliver for our great female fighters. It was brilliant. Tasha said to me afterwards, she commentated, of course, she's meant to be retired now. She got a world title. She's meant to be working with us, but she's just got the hunger again. She now wants more belts. She wants Clarissa Shields. It's unbelievable. Even she's inspired at this stage of her career. So it's fantastic to see. And for me, more than anything, it's the kids who can look up to their idols and believe that anything is possible now.
You talked about keeping that show off of a pay-per-view platform. We've talked many times in the past about what constitutes a box office event. It's that little something extra. Kind of know it when you see it. Dereck Chisora, Tyson Fury, third time they've met. If it was on Sky, does that have that something extra? Would it be a box office event?
I think Tyson Fury is a box office fighter, isn't he, now on BT? Obviously, it's not our show, but he is the premier heavyweight in the world. He is the entertainer. He is the man that's backing it all up, from the skills that he showed all through the years to the power and the ferocity he's demonstrated in recent times with the Wilder trilogy and with the the knockout of Dillian White. And I think with Tyson, you never know what's going to happen next to you. He tells us he's retiring. We didn't believe it. He then said on TalkSport earlier today that he was going to have 10 more fights. So you don't know. I think with Tyson, you just sort of got to be around him, even if you're not, commercially or involved. And obviously it's a BT and a Frank fight. But we like to follow it. Sky Sports News will cover it. And it's a big fight because it's Tyson Fury. Is Dereck Chisora the ideal opponent for Tyson Fury? Of course not. We all wanted the Anthony Joshua fight. We all want to see the Alexander Usyk fight. But Dereck's a big name. It's in North London. It's a stadium show. They want to push it and sell it. We know one thing, Dereck will give it everything. We all expect Tyson to move on to that big unification, undisputed fight with Alexander Usyk. That's the fight we all want to see. But listen, we'll all turn up when Tyson's fighting, because you never know when he won't be. And it's going to be back-to-back fights in stadiums in Britain, and I'm sure the fans will turn out for him.
You know Dereck very well and have worked with him many times over the years. How do you balance the kind of concern with him keep taking these fights and the style he has as well? He's always going to take a lot of punishment, even if he wins, with the fact that he's getting a huge payday, and, if he does well, it might encourage him to carry on.
I mean, you summed it up, haven't you? In Indian Summer, or whatever we call Dereck Chisora's stage of his boxing life now, none of us want to see him go on too long, obviously. The health and safety of him, for his family, his beautiful kids he's got now, of course that is, but he's a professional fighter. He's coming off a win against Kubrat Pulev. He's got a great team around him with 258, KD and Freddie and everybody, and they've got to decide what they think is right, and he's challenging for the world heavyweight title again. So he'll give it absolutely everything. But there is a fine balance, because we all adore Dereck. We've gone through our ups and downs with him, obviously, in the past, from tables being turned at press conferences. I thought it was pretty tame today, to be honest. But he is a character, and he's a hell of a fighter. He's obviously not an Alexander Usyk. He's not an Anthony Joshua. He's not a Joe Joyce. He's not a Deontay Wilder, and they're the fights really you want to see the big guys in now. But I think in terms of a commercial, if you look at it from a selling an event point of view, Dereck's a good name in North London. It's much better than a Manuel Charr or one or two of the other names that are floating around. And as I said, he's coming off a victory, so it's not up to us to tell Dereck when to call it a day. But we don't want to see him go on too long, because we've always loved Dereck Chisora, but he wants this fight. His team want it. He's getting a lot of money for it. So let's hope he does his best. He gives us a great show, and everything's fine at the end of it. And health and safety is the most important thing, as you and I know, Danny, for our fighters who we adore and we love. He'll be getting a lot of money for it. If he somehow becomes heavyweight champion on December the 3rd, it will surely be one of the biggest upsets in history. You shake your head and no one can see it, obviously. You never know in heavyweight boxing. There's always that chance of a shock, but it'll be monumental. I'm sure a lot of the fans are disappointed that it's not an Anthony Joshua, that it's not someone that on paper is more competitive. We've seen two of the fights before. Whatever, if Tyson promised him a trilogy, I don't buy that it's anything like the Deontay Wilder trilogy. It's totally different. It's not. It's Tyson needs to be back in a ring, and maybe this made sense to them. But it's a tough one for Dereck. But we wish him well, and it's all we want is him to get out all right, absolutely right. And he's given us everything in this business, and we don't want to see him go on too long. But he's getting a lot of money. He's got a big team around him, and they're the ones that take the decisions.
And just finally, we're 2 weeks removed now from the implosion of Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Ben. I guess, first of all, did you see any impact that had on your show last week, in terms of would it have been even bigger if that shadow wasn't hanging over boxing at the time?
Another difficult question, as you always give us, Danny. Disappointing week for boxing, obviously, what happened with Conor and Chris. It was a big shock to me. I was taking my son to the fight, just turned 15, really excited about it, and I came back from the office and he said, this was the Tuesday, I think it was, whenever the news broke, and he said, Dad, we can't go now because Conor's failed a drugs test and the fight can't happen. And I said, well, actually, it's not been officially called off. I think the board obviously said that they didn't want it, but it was called off later. And it was very simplistic. My son said, look, he's been, found, there's a drug test that he's failed, and Chris can't fight him, and the fight can't go on, the show can't go on. And it was very disappointing, and obviously I was very shocked with what I saw, because I know Conor very well. It's not for us to judge. The British board made the right decision. It's a process that's got to be followed out, and I felt very sorry for everybody involved, actually, because boxing's a difficult place to be in when things like this happen. But the right thing happened. The fight couldn't have gone on, and the board did exactly the right thing. They're the governing body, and we've got to listen to them. Did it have a knock-on effect? I think everybody was talking about it all last week and continues to. That's not good for boxing. Ultimately, I think it was very different last week. I think it was a different audience. It was a fantastic feel in the O2, so I don't think there was a real knock-on effect from that. We saw amazing numbers. It was a very different sort of show, but obviously it wasn't a good couple of weeks, and let's hope we move on with brighter things ahead. We just have to wait and see what goes on with Conor and with Chris, and how we move forward. But very disappointing not to get Fury and AJ, and not to get Conor and Chris, because they're two big fights for the casuals, and at least we got a different audience watching Saturday night. So we were really pleased with that. But obviously it was a difficult couple of weeks for boxing, and we've all been there before, Danny, in difficult weeks, and you hope that it follows. A good week followed, and it did. It couldn't have gone better on Saturday night at the O2. It was a Sky show, but I know what Eddie and Calla and the British board would have been going through that week, and that's why I chose not to do any interviews and stay away from it, because it's difficult times for everybody, and the most important thing is the health and safety of the fighters, as I've always said, and there's no place for drugs in the sport, and the right thing happened. He failed a test. The fight couldn't have gone ahead, and we wait to see how it all unfolds. But very shocked originally was my initial reaction to it.
Will we see Chris Eubank Jr.'s next fight back on Sky?
Maybe. Who knows? I think there's a lot of dust to be settled. I don't know the ins and outs of the contractual situation, and it's in the hands of lawyers, it's in the hand of medics, doctors, the board, Conor Ben, all sorts of things. So I just got to wait and see. We've got to wait and see to how it all unravels. Would we like to see Chris back on Sky? Of course we would. We've enjoyed many good nights with Conor and Chris. Just disappointed that and for the fans that happened. But maybe it was meant to happen. Like maybe with the weight differences and all the problems, and Chris Senior's outspoken thing, there was a lot of difficulties with the fight, and ultimately maybe the board weren't that comfortable with it anyway, and ultimately they can't be comfortable with a failed drug test from VADA, and they had to do something, and they did the right thing. So we let that situation unfold and continue, and we concentrate on what we've got, which is some fantastic stuff with Boxer, and we had a great show with Top Rank as well. Not only the Saturday night at the O2, we had one down under, and many more Top Rank shows ahead. But with Boxer, our partners, we work towards the Tasha Jonas show, and we've got obviously Fraser Clark coming back, and we're looking forward to the Benjamin and Dalton Smith fight, and Ricky Hatton's exhibition. So lots to look forward to on November the 12th. November 26th is another one, and we'll look to be announcing more soon. So we crack on with our work. We stay in our business, but obviously I like to have a look and see what's happening here. It's a huge moment for Tyson Fury to be fighting in London again. Katie Taylor's back next week in London, so we need to keep our eyes on everything that's happening in boxing. Lots of competition, lots of good times for the fans, and obviously some difficult times. And when it's tricky, you like to follow it with a big week and a good week. And we've all had our difficult weeks, and that's why I feel for everyone that was involved in that Ben Eubank week. I thought Chris was absolutely brilliant in the way he handled it, and it'd be lovely to see him back on Sky at some point.
Just one final one, a bit of a quicker one though. Who, in your view, now is the #1 female pound-for-pound fighter in the world? Is it Katie or is it Clarissa?
I was asked that last week, and it was a difficult question to answer. I think Clarissa was breathing down my neck at the time, and I went for Katie just because, she's been an absolute pioneer in the sport for a longer time in a way. It certainly feels like that. She's a decade on almost from Clarissa. Okay, Clarissa did win in London and Rio, but Katie, for what she did before that, and breaking barriers and going back to when she was a young girl and had to dress up as a boy, it almost feels like she's been the pioneer and has done it longer, and she's undefeated, and she seems a sort of almost a step ahead. She's had more fights. Very, very hard question to answer. I think Clarissa said, she can be the best fighter on the planet and I can be the GOAT. And I think that's about right. They're both incredible, and they both stand as phenomenal athletes, fighters, role models, representatives, ambassadors for the sport. We saw how good Clarissa was again on Saturday night. Savannah gave her everything to make it a fantastic fight, and so did Amanda Serrano and Delphine Pisson and everybody that's gone in with Katie. But they take these challenges, they drive themselves the extra mile, they don't care who they fight with that pressure on the shoulders. They're very, very different, as we know, in character. Katie's so quiet and unassuming, and she gets in the ring. Clarissa's loud, and who else could come in dressed the way she was, out of a roller, and then come in and dance her way into the ring? I mean, unbelievable scenes last week. But I have every bit of respect, as you know. I'm very, very close to Katie Taylor, and I have every bit of respect in the same way for Katie. So I can't answer that question. They're both unbelievable fighters, and I think they'll both tell you that you can't really compare. They're at different weight classes. They're doing their thing, and I'm so proud of the pair of them.
Brilliant. Adam, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers, Dan.